One of the things that I really like to do is be able to make pens. And to do that, I'm either using the wood or I'm going to be able to pour my own. And that's something that I really enjoy doing. But I wanted to do something different. Oftentimes when I pour the resin for the pens, I use the melamine type of mold to be able to pour them, or I use a 3/4 inch piece of PVC pipe that I can pour the resin into. Well, I want to try something different. Now, in the past, when I've made my resin pours, I always had a fairly large mold, or I used that 3/4 inch piece of pipe. But the colors were generally all the same color. Well, I want to try something different. I decided to be able to make and design my own 3D printed molds. And this is one of them. This is going to have the heart shape in it. And I can pour individual color hearts in there and then pour the surrounding color. And that will create my pen blank. And I think this is going to work out really, really well. I'm really happy to have the 3D printers in the shop because this is being able to combine two different media. To be able to use the 3D printing and combine that with the pen turning is just a perfect combination. Now, one of the main differences of using the molds in this manner is that these molds become part of the blank itself. When these are designed, I'm designing it with 100% infill so that there's solid plastic all the way through. So I think these will do just fine as far as the turning as well as being placed in the pressure pot. So the key thing with this is also how the different images are designed. Because the pen is being turned, I don't want the stars distorted on each side. So I have this pen blank that's set up with the stars in the center, and I did the other blank with a multitude of stars on each side. And in this particular blank, I actually think the stars are going to be distorted on the left and right of the pen blank, and that's something that I really don't want. Let me show you how I set up the pressure pot now. On the bottom of these pressure pots, they're actually curved, and you can't put your resin into that. You need to be able to put a flat bottom. And I'm just going to take a piece of plywood and mark the center of it, and then I'm going to draw the circle and cut it out on the bandsaw. And to do that, I just use an old mechanical drawing set that I've had for decades and decades to be able to do that. Now this is 9 3/8 of an inch in diameter. And to be able to sit here and say, well, there's 9 3/8, what's half of it? That's a little bit of a pain in the neck. It's a lot easier just to switch and use the metric system, because then I can take the 9 3/8, and that's roughly 238. I can easily divide that in half and say that's about 119 millimeters. So that's what I'm going to do. I set this up at 119 millimeters, and then I'm going to just simply draw the circle. So now I have my circle. Let's just double check it. If I measure that, I like to go from the 1 inch over, and that's exactly the 9 3/8 of an inch. So that's perfect. I'll take this over to the bandsaw and cut this out, and I'll have my perfect circle to go into the bottom. At the bandsaw, I'm just going to cut this circle out. Now, if for some reason you don't have a bandsaw, you certainly could use a jigsaw. That will work just fine for being able to cut that out. Now, once it's done, I'm just taking it over to the sander, and I'm just going to clean up the edges a little bit. Now, this doesn't have to be perfectly round, but I did want to clean up the edges to make it just a little bit nicer. I'm also going to put 2 finger holes in here, or maybe even just 1 finger hole, so I can reach in, pick it up, and lift this out when I want to. I think I'm just going to go with 1 finger hole. This is about a 1 inch in diameter. When I'm drilling this hole, I'm only going to drill it through just so that tip will come out the other side. And that will help prevent the tear out of the plywood itself. So once I have that little hole there, I can flip it over, put the drill bit back in, and finish cutting from the back side. And that makes for a very clean hole. I don't even need to sand that. And that will allow me to put my finger in there and be able to lift this out. So I'm going to bring the pot over here. I can now just gently lift that down, be perfect. That's going to be fantastic for a flat bottom. If I want to take it out, I can just lift it out without any difficulty. Now for the fun part, I want to talk about how I made these molds. Another mold that I had done is this one right here. This one is alternating the stripes all the way around. Now the idea behind that is to pour this in the 3/4 inch piece of pipe like this. This will slip down inside of it, and then I'll pour the resin in here. Now what I will do is, for this example today, I'm going to pour red in here. And what that will create, when this comes out of the mold, this will create an alternating red and white stripes. And I think that is something that will be fantastic. Now this is something I've been thinking about for quite some time, but I really didn't have any way to be able to do it until I got to 3D printers. Since I've got the 3D printer, that's opened up a whole new world. Another item that I wanted to be able to do, in keeping with those red and white stripes, is to be able to do the stars. Now I created this one. This one has some fairly large stars, and this one has some smaller stars. I actually don't know which one is going to work best, or if either one of them will work. This will be part of the experiment. My concern is, quite frankly, as this turns down round, is how are the stars going to look on that outer edge? Will it just kind of fade away to nothing, or will it just create basically a straight line of white? Well, we're going to find out, because this is all a big experiment. And if it doesn't work, I'll go back to the drawing board and create another design to be able to make the stars work. I also created just a simple plain mold. All of these molds were created in the Tinkercad, which is a free software that you can download and then begin designing anything that you want. Now this is the one that's going to be printed out with the white PLA that will create the red and the white stripes. And this was actually fun to design and fun to watch print. Learning to use the Tinkercad software is actually very, very simple to do, and it takes just literally a matter of minutes to be able to successfully learn the software and be able to start designing the projects that you want. And this design was especially fun to be able to print out, because this, quite frankly, was the tallest object that I have printed thus far on the 3D printer. Now this is a look at the mold that I printed with the hearts. And again, this is a standard shape that was in the Tinkercad software, and all I did is just bring it into the work area and I designed the heart from there. So again, nothing special at all about being able to design in Tinkercad. They have a multitude of different items that you can select and bring into your drawings. And the nice thing about this is that you can print these out anytime that you need a new pen blank. And if you want to design a brand new one and put in different shapes, you can easily do so. So this one is now ready for the resin to be poured in. And of course, once you finish the design in Tinkercad, you can open up the Cura software and you can bring this file right into the Cura software. From there, you'll hit slice after you set the particular settings that you want, and you're ready to be able to print it. Now to do this one, I did set this for 100% infill, and that's really the only thing that I changed. From there, I just hit slice. Now this particular stripe is actually designed where it would fit right inside of the 3/4 inch pipe. So it's about 19 millimeters in diameter, and as far as the length of this, it's about 6 inches long. And that slides directly into the PVC pipe, and that makes for the perfect mold and the perfect stripes, I'm hoping, to be able to do the red and white. Now of course you could do this in any color that you wish. It doesn't have to be for the red and white stripes. I'm using the Aluminite Slow Set resin to be able to do these projects. Now this is a 50-50 mix, so I'm putting half of the resin and half of the hardener in each of the cups. Once I have the portions correct, then I'll mix these two into a larger cup, and I'm going to stir thoroughly. In addition to that, once these two halves are combined, that's when I will add in the color. Now you want to make sure that you thoroughly mix this. You have about a 45-minute working time, so you don't have to rush. In addition to that, as you're stirring and you put your color in, one thing to remember is you don't need a lot of color. A little bit goes a long way. As you're stirring, you want to make sure that it gets completely mixed, including scraping the sides. And don't forget, you don't want to see any little swirls as you're mixing. But once it's thoroughly mixed, then it's time to pour the resin into the mold. Now, having a paper cup for this might have been a little bit easier, but all in all, this cup still worked well, and I was able to pour in the resin without making a big mess. It's important to pour slowly, and you want to be able to have a nice long stream of the resin as you pour it into the mold. This helps to reduce the bubbles. Now, because I'm putting this in the pressure pot, the bubbles are going to be taken care of. But the fewer bubbles that I can generate here, the better off I'm going to be when it goes into the pressure pot. Now that this is complete, I'll set this gently into the pressure pot. Off camera, I had mixed up the red and had poured the other molds, so it's time now to put the lid onto the pressure pot and get this ready to go. Now I'm going to let this sit for about 24 hours. The demold time for this particular resin is 24 to 48 hours, and I've found that 24 hours works real well. The pressure that I'm using for this pot is actually 50 pounds. That works real well. That's really all the pressure that you need. The tank itself is rated for 80 pounds, so that gives me plenty of a safety margin. The particular resin that I'm using has a 24 to 48 hour demold time, and it's been almost 24 hours. One of the things about the pressure pots, they typically will leak no matter how good they are. Now this one's still at the 50 pounds, but the reason being is I have this hose connected. That hose is connected to this air compressor. And that way, even though the air compressor has 100 pounds of pressure on it, which feeds up to the pressure pot with this regulator on it keeps the pressure consistent at that 50 pounds. And that's what I want to be able to accomplish. That way it maintains its consistency, and that should work out really, really well. But it's time now. Let's get these molds out and see what they look like. So all the pressure's out now. I can go ahead and open this up. That looks fantastic. I think that's going to turn out to be a beautiful pen. That looks excellent. That has a few of the swirls in it. I'm curious to see how the swirls are going to be down inside, but it'll still make a nice, pretty blank. And this one, let's get it out. Okay. There we go. I think that is going to turn out beautiful. Here's a close-up look at all of the different molds that I had in the pressure pot. Now this blue portion with the stars is just really a placeholder. I'm not going to do anything with it. I just finished printing this brand new one with the larger stars right down the center, and I'm going to pour this and get it into the pressure pot. It's been about 24 hours now, and this one's ready to come out of the pressure pot, and it looks fantastic. I really did not like the other blank with the 3 rows of stars because that white stripe just did not look good on each side of that blank. I did not want that. This, I think, will look a lot better. To be able to set this up, I need to cut away the rest of that resin off of that brass tube. To do that, I'm just using a parting tool, and I can cut that resin away and get it right down to the brass tube itself. Typically, I do not put the Starbond glue on a resin pen blank, but because this has that PLA material in here, there's no protection on it. So I do want to put a nice coat of the Starbond thin glue on this to be able to create a super nice finish and to seal the PLA. To add this thin layer, I'm simply taking a clean piece of the paper towel, put in a few drops of the thin CA glue by Starbond on there, and then I can just gently rub onto the resin blank. And that creates an absolutely gorgeous finish. That's looking really, really good. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for watching this video today. Now you've been able to see the setup that I'm doing with the resin pens and the new 3D printed molds. These are going to be a lot of fun. Now in the next video, I'm going to be actually turning all of these different pens and showing you exactly how I do it and showing you the completed pens. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So if you haven't done so already, please take the opportunity and hit that little subscribe button down there and the bell notification. That way you're going to be notified on the different videos. This is just the beginning. I'm planning on doing a lot more different designs with the 3D printer. I can't wait to see you. And I do want to thank everybody for watching this video today. It really does help that you spend time with me in the shop, and I really enjoy having you. So until next time, can't wait to see you in the shop. So bye-bye now.